Good day, everyone. Today, we'll explore how Jesus reinterpreted Jewish worship traditions. Throughout his ministry, Jesus challenged religious practices that had become rigid and legalistic. He emphasized sincerity, compassion, and true worship over empty rituals. Jesus had strong words for those who practice worship for the wrong reasons. He condemned self-righteousness, legalism, and hypocrisy among religious leaders. In the Sermon of the Mount, he warned against performing acts of righteousness just to be seen by others. For example, in Matthew 6 verse 2 to 3, Jesus said that when giving to those in need, it should be done in secret, not for public praise. Similarly, in Matthew 6 verse 5 to 6, he taught that prayer should be a private conversation with God, not a performance for others. In Matthew 6 verse 16, he warned against disfiguring one's face while fasting to appear holy. This teaching emphasized genuine devotion rather than outward appearances. Fasting was an important part of Jewish worship. The law required fasting on specific occasions such as the Day of Atonement as mentioned in Leviticus 16 verse 29 to 31. However, people could also fast at other times when they wanted to make a special petition to God. In the Old Testament, the prophets Isaiah and Jeremiah criticized hypocritical fasting. Isaiah 58 verse 3 to 7 and Jeremiah 14:12 verse 12 show how people fasted for show rather than true repentance. Jesus continued this critique, urging his followers to fast with sincerity, not to gain attention. Jesus often clashed with religious leaders over their strict interpretation of the law. One of the biggest points of conflict was the Sabbath. The religious leaders had created many rules around the Sabbath, making it difficult for people to live their daily lives. In Luke 6 verse 6 to 11, Jesus healed a man with a withered hand on the Sabbath. The religious leaders accused him of breaking the law, but Jesus pointed out their inconsistency. He reminded them that they would rescue a sheep from a pit on the Sabbath, so why shouldn't he heal a suffering person? Jesus didn't just heal on the Sabbath. He also instructed people to act even if it went against man-made rules. In John 5 verse 8 to 9, he told a healed man to pick up his mat and walk, which was considered work and therefore a violation of the Sabbath. In Luke 13 verse 15 to 16, he healed a woman who had been crippled for 18 years. When the leaders criticized him, Jesus pointed out their hypocrisy, saying that they ante and lead their animals to water on the Sabbath. So shouldn't this suffering woman also be freed? Through these acts, Jesus showed that human need was more important than strict religious rules. He wanted worship to be about our relationship with God, not just following regulations. Another major way Jesus reinterpreted worship was through his teaching about the temple. In John 2 verse 19, he said, "Tear down this temple, and in 3 days I will build it again." The religious leader thought he was talking about the physical temple in Jerusalem, but Jesus was actually referring to his own body. Later, during his trial before Pilate, this statement was used against him. The religious leaders saw the destruction of the temple as the destruction of their entire religious system. However, Jesus was revealing that true worship would no longer be limited to a physical place, but would be centered him. Jesus' teachings and action laid the foundation for a new way of worship. Robert Weber, a scholar on Christian worship, noted that New Testament worship was born out of the events surrounding Jesus' life, death, and resurrection. At first, people didn't realize that Jesus' message extended beyond Israel, but over time, it became clear that Gentiles were also invited to be part of God's people. Jesus' reinterpretation of Jewish worship led to a new era where worship was no longer about rituals and legalism but about a direct relationship with God. In conclusion, Jesus transformed worship from a rigid, rule-based practice into a sincere, heart-filled connection with God. He challenges traditions that had lost their meaning and emphasized love, mercy, and faith over outward display of religion. So that's all for my report. Thank you.